Welcome back, listeners. Today I am going to prove UFO exists. Alien is real. I am not going to speculate. I am going to prove through multi domain, cross cultural, mathematically grounded, and now officially declassified evidence that unidentified flying objects are real and that intelligent extraterrestrial life has visited and likely continues to visit this planet. We will walk through government military records, ancient civilizations on 5 continents, astrophysics, signal intelligence, propulsion theory, dimensional mechanics, alien abduction testimony, and the stars most likely to harbor our visitors. This is not a conspiracy. This is a convergence of evidence. By the time we are done, the burden of proof will not rest with those who believe. It will rest with those who still doubt. Let us begin. Let us begin with the most credible source imaginable, the United States government itself. As of May 2026, the US Department of War launched Pursuit, the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP encounters, under direct order from President Trump to declassify all UAP-related documents. Release 01, dated May 8, 2026, contains officially cleared infrared imagery of unidentified objects over the western United States in September and December 2025, the Middle East in 2013, 2020, and 2022, the United Arab Emirates in October 2023, Greece in October 2023, Africa in 2025, and near Japan via US Indo-Pacific Command in 2024. A football-shaped object near Japan, a craft flying straight from the ocean toward land in Greece, objects below a military helicopter in the American West, and remarkably, archival Apollo 17 imagery showing 3 lights above the lunar surface. All of these are officially designated unresolved, meaning the United States military, with all its sensor technology and intelligence apparatus, cannot explain what these objects are. Not drones, not weather balloons, not satellites. Unresolved. Now let us go back further into the catalog of irrefutable cases. The Tic Tac incident, 2004, Pacific Ocean. USS Nimitz strike group pilots, including Commander David Fravor, tracked a white, wingless, tic-tac-shaped object off the California coast. It dropped from 80,000 feet to near sea level in under 2 seconds. That is a velocity requiring approximately 5,000 g-forces of acceleration, a force that would reduce any human or known structure to liquid. The object had no visible propulsion, no exhaust fluid, and no infrared heat signature. It then accelerated away horizontally, covering 16 miles in under a minute. The US Navy officially confirmed the video is authentic. No known human technology explains this. The gimbal video, 2015, Eastern Seaboard. Captured by a Navy FA-18 Super Hornet using an advanced targeting pod, the footage shows a rotating oblong craft moving against the wind with no aerodynamic surfaces. The object rotates smoothly, something no fixed wing or rotary aircraft can replicate in flight. Pentagon officially released this in 2020, confirming its authenticity. The Go Fast, Atlantic Coast, 2015. This footage, also Navy authenticated, shows an object flying at extreme speed just above the ocean surface. Analysis by aerospace engineers calculated its ground speed at over 13,000 miles per hour, hugging the wave tops with no sonic boom, defying every known principle of near-surface aerodynamics. Roswell and the FBI memo, 1947. In July 1947, something crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. The Army Air Force issued a press release confirming recovery of a flying disc. 24 hours later, they retracted it and called it a weather balloon. But the FBI memo, signed by Special Agent Guy Hotel in 1950, describes 3 recovered flying saucers, each containing 3 bodies of humanoid beings dressed in metallic cloth, roughly 3 feet tall. This document sits in the FBI's own online vault. It was never meant to go public, but the Freedom of Information Act dragged it out. This is not a conspiracy theorist's claim. It is a federal agent's official field report. The Phoenix Lights, March 13, 1997. Thousands of Arizona residents, including the sitting governor Fife Symington, witnessed a mile-wide V-shaped craft moving silently over Phoenix. It was tracked by Luke Air Force Base radar. Symington initially mocked the event at a press conference, then years later publicly admitted what he saw that night was not from this world. The Belgian UFO wave, 1989 to 1990. Over 2,000 reported sightings of large, triangular, silent craft across Belgium. NATO radar confirmed the objects. Belgian F-16 jets intercepted and filmed the craft, which accelerated from hovering to Mach 1 in seconds, executing 180-degree turns that no aircraft could survive. This remains officially unexplained. Now in India, the evidence is equally systematic. The Ladakh and Demchok sectors along the China border have been persistent hotspots since the 1960s. Indian Army units have documented yellowish, spear-shaped objects hovering at 15,000 feet or higher for hours, confirmed on radar and thermal imaging. The objects do not respond to radio contact and are not consistent with any known Chinese or Indian aerial vehicle. Imphal Airport saw air traffic controllers visually track an unlit craft executing right-angle turns at controlled airspace entry altitudes, a maneuver that would destroy any conventional aircraft due to G-forces. A commercial pilot's ATC report over Pune describes a disc-shaped object at cruising altitude pacing the aircraft for 4 minutes, then departing vertically at impossible speed. The Kolkata shape-shifting fireball, recorded on multiple independent cameras, shows an aerial object that changes morphology in mid-flight from spherical to elongated, something no known solid-body aircraft can do. And near the South Block in New Delhi, radar systems logged an unidentified aerial object lingering over one of India's most restricted airspaces, near the Prime Minister's residence, for approximately 12 minutes before vanishing from screens. The pattern globally is consistent. Objects defying aerodynamics, evading identification, exhibiting propulsion signatures that do not match any human technology. When hundreds of trained military personnel and pilots, backed by radar and infrared sensors across multiple countries and decades, report the same classes of objects, the rational conclusion is not mass hallucination. it is confirmation. The skeptic might say UFOs are a modern obsession, but our ancestors, who had no science fiction, no Hollywood, and no internet, left behind a global record of encounters that cannot be explained away. In Abydos, Egypt, carvings inside the temple of Seti I, over 3,000 years old, depict what unmistakably resemble a helicopter, a submarine, and a modern fixed-wing aircraft. Archaeologists call it palimpsest, overlapping hieroglyphics that create illusions. But the precision and aerodynamic accuracy of these shapes stretch that explanation to breaking point. The Tulli Papyrus, circa 1480 BCE, reportedly sourced from the Egyptian Museum and translated from ancient hieratic script, describes Pharaoh Thutmose III witnessing circles of fire moving in formation across the sky over multiple days, so numerous they outshone the sun. His royal scribes recorded it as a military log entry, not mythology, not prayer, but an observed event documented for the historical record. In Mesoamerica, the lid of the Pakal sarcophagus, carved for the Mayan ruler Pakal the Great in 683 CE, is one of the most debated artifacts in archaeology. Seen from a side angle, the carved figure appears to be reclining in a capsule with a breathing apparatus near his face, hands on controls, and a flame or exhaust emanating from the base. When NASA engineer Eric von Daniken compared it to the posture of Mercury astronauts during launch, the resemblance was not metaphorical, it was anatomical. In ancient India, the Vedic texts and epics are not vague on the subject. The Ramayana describes Pushpaka Vimana, a flying palace that moved through the sky at the speed of thought, capable of carrying armies and piloted using spoken commands. The Mahabharata describes aerial weapons called Brahmastra that consumed entire armies with a single discharge of energy. Descriptions that have led physicists to draw uncomfortable parallels with directed energy weapons. The Vaimanika Shastra, a text purportedly channeled from ancient Sanskrit sources, describes Mercury vortex engines, multi-directional flight, and anti-gravitational lift with a specificity that no pre-industrial civilization should possess. In Australia, the Wandjina figures painted by Aboriginal artists 5,000 years ago show large-headed, noseless, mouthless beings with enormous almond-shaped dark eyes, surrounded by halos. The indigenous Moanjum people say the Wandjina came from the sky, created light, and will return. This is not metaphor in their tradition, it is history. In Algeria, the Tassili Najar cave paintings, dated between 6,000 and 10,000 years ago, show figures in rounded helmets with antenna-like protrusions and form-fitting full-body suits, long before any human culture conceived of pressurized environments or space travel. One figure, known as the Great God of Tassili, stands nearly 8 meters tall in the painting, surrounded by smaller humanoid figures. A visual composition that reads less like religion and more like a witness account of beings who towered over early humans. Consider this: Aboriginal Australia, ancient Egypt, Vedic India, Mayan Mexico, and prehistoric Algeria. Cultures separated by tens of thousands of miles and millennia independently created art depicting the same class of beings. Large heads, large eyes, small or absent noses and mouths, and associations with the sky. The statistical probability of this convergence being coincidental is zero. These civilizations documented encounters with something non-human. Now let us take emotion out of the equation entirely and talk pure mathematics. The Drake equation, developed by astrophysicist Frank Drake in 1961, calculates the number of technologically communicative civilizations in the Milky Way by multiplying variables: the weight of star formation, the fraction with planets, the fraction with life-supporting conditions, the fraction that develop life, that develop intelligence, that develop technology, and that survive long enough to transmit signals. Even plugging in deeply conservative values, the most skeptical numbers credible scientists will accept, the output is in the hundreds of thousands of civilizations in our galaxy alone. With generous but scientifically defensible values, it runs into the millions. The Fermi paradox, named for physicist Enrico Fermi, is the apparent contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial life and our lack of obvious confirmed contact. Fermi's original question was, if they exist, where are they? Decades later, the answer that best fits the evidence is this: they are here, and we have been calling their craft UFOs since 1947. Probability theory adds another dimension. Our universe contains an estimated 2 trillion galaxies. The Milky Way alone has 400 billion stars. Conservative estimates suggest 20 billion Earth-sized planets orbit Sun-like stars in habitable zones in just our galaxy. Abiogenesis, the emergence of light from chemistry, has been replicated in laboratory conditions multiple times. The probability of Earth being the sole inhabited planet in this system is not merely improbable. In formal probability terms, with the known density of suitable planetary environments, the null hypothesis that no other life exists fails with a confidence level that would be rejected in any scientific paper. Life elsewhere is not a theory. It is the most mathematically defensible position available. The rare earth hypothesis, often used to argue against alien life, contends that Earth's precise conditions are so unlikely that intelligent life cannot exist elsewhere. But this argument collapses when applied to the scale of the universe. Even if only 1 in a trillion planets meets every condition on the rare earth checklist, that still leaves 2 million inhabited planets in the observable universe. The mathematics does not support uniqueness. It demands company. Now, investigating through sighting trends across geographics, we can prove the UFO and alien are reals. Here, we will apply the law of critical realism. Across the United States, India, and global maps, one striking pattern emerges. Most UFO sightings cluster around high surveillance zones rather than random locations. Military air bases, missile silos, radar stations, naval fleets, and nuclear facilities consistently overlap with reported sightings. This suggests that advanced radar systems, infrared tracking, satellites, and round-the-clock monitoring simply detect far more unidentified aerial objects than ordinary civilian regions. Another major pattern is the concentration near international borders. Alaska, Ladakh, the Korean Peninsula, Eastern Europe, and the South China Sea. These are heavily monitored regions with continuous military patrols and electronic surveillance, increasing the probability of detecting unusual aerial phenomena. Coastal and oceanic hotspots also stand out. Naval fleets, submarine routes, aircraft carriers, and maritime radar networks create dense observation zones across the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. The Himalayan region likely shows higher sightings because of extreme altitude surveillance, strategic military deployment, rare atmospheric conditions, and reduced civilian interference. Overall, the maps indicate strong correlation with surveillance intensity. This also proves the theory of critical realism, which says that pattern is deterministic and consistent, closed system. The existence is obvious. Any natural phenomenon or man-made phenomenon will be non-deterministic and inconsistent, open-ended. Moreover, more detection capabilities, more sighting, also proves the corollary. If civilizations exist out there, are they communicating? The answer, based on what we have already received, appears to be yes. The WOW signal, August 15, 1977. Astronomer Jerry Ehman, working at the Big Ear Radio Telescope at Ohio State University, detected a narrowband radio signal of such extraordinary power and specificity that it matched every parameter scientists had theorized an extraterrestrial transmission would exhibit. It was broadcast on the 1420 MHz hydrogen line, the universal frequency that any radio-capable civilization would know other civilizations monitor. Ehman circled the data readout and wrote "Wow" in red pen, and that name has stuck ever since. The signal lasted 72 seconds. In over 50 years of subsequent monitoring of the same coordinates, it has never repeated. Its source has never been identified. No natural astrophysical process produces a narrowband signal at the hydrogen line. It remains the strongest candidate for a confirmed extraterrestrial transmission in human history. Fast radio bursts, FRBs. First detected in 2007, these are millisecond duration pulses of enormous radio energy arriving from billions of light years away. They release more energy in a millisecond than our sun outputs in thousands of years. Initially dismissed as random cosmic events, certain FRBs have since been found to repeat, and to repeat in structured intervals. FRB 121102, originating from a galaxy 3 billion light years away, repeats in cycles consistent with the rotating or orbiting transmission source. Astrophysicist R.V. Loeb of Harvard has formally argued that the energy profile of certain FRBs matches the output of a civilization using directed radio beams to propel light-sail spacecraft. Essentially, someone else's transportation infrastructure, inadvertently detectable from our vantage point. The 1977 Star Wars TV broadcast interruption. On November 26, 1977, a voice overrode the live ITN news broadcast in southern England, transmitting for nearly 6 minutes, claiming to represent Galactic Command and warning humanity to abandon weapons.
All captured prisoners of war, allowing negotiation, being arrested. In Australia, Mr. Kerry Packer's cricketers are still pleading the right. Yesterday's High Court decision, which lifts the ban on them playing in Test matches.
This is the voice of Kumar, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you. For many years you have seen us as lights in the skies. We speak to you now to service them as we have done to your brothers and sisters all over this, your planet Earth. We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your world so that you may communicate to your fellow beings.
UK authorities investigated and never identified the source. The signal overpowered a regulated broadcast transmitter, something technically demanding and officially unexplained to this day. Natural phenomena generate broadband noise. Pulsars pulse in predictable intervals tied to their spin rates, but structured narrowband signals at biologically significant frequencies, repeating in non-random patterns, these are the fingerprints of cognition. Someone is transmitting. We just have not officially admitted who is receiving. Given the observed behaviors, zero radius turns, instant acceleration from standstill, no heat signature, no sonic boom, what propulsion could explain this? Magnetohydrodynamic MHD drive uses electromagnetic fields to accelerate plasma with no moving parts, producing silent and rapid movement through air or water. Magnetic anti-gravity propulsion could explain the hovering and vertical ascent with no downward thrust signature. The Alcubierre-Watt drive, while theoretical, proposes compressing space-time ahead and expanding it behind a vessel, enabling apparent faster-than-light travel without the craft itself violating relativity. The most likely candidate, consistent with the observed absence of exhaust, heat, and inertial effects on occupants, is a quantum vacuum zero-point energy drive, extracting propulsive force from the quantum form of space-time itself. This would explain everything: the silence, the right-angle turns, and why occupants would survive accelerations that would kill a human pilot at thousands of G-forces. The sudden appearance and instant disappearance of UFOs, documented in military video after military video, is inconsistent with any form of conventional transit. The most coherent explanation is wormhole traversal, stable or transient tunnels through the curvature of space-time that allow near instantaneous relocation. The craft does not fly away. It does not cloak. The footage shows it ceasing to exist in our observable space-time, which is precisely what wormhole exit looks like from the outside. Parallel dimension transit offers a complementary explanation. The craft may nominally inhabit a coexisting spatial layer, dipping into our observable dimension briefly during what we call sightings before returning. The right angle turns and instant velocity changes suggest the craft is not always subject to our physics. It enters and exits our dimensional frame, which is why it breaks every aerodynamic rule we know. Earth has exceptional abundances of liquid water, atmospheric oxygen, rare mineral concentrations, and biological complexity unmatched in the known solar system. Resource observation is one hypothesis. But the most disturbing category of evidence, and the one that most directly proves intentional interaction, is the documented history of human abductions. Barney and Betty Hill, 1961, New Hampshire. The first fully investigated alien abduction case in American history. The Hills, a married couple, lost 2 hours of time while driving at night. Under separate hypnotic regression, they independently described identical experiences. Being taken aboard a craft by grey-skinned beings with large eyes, subjected to medical examinations, and shown a star map. Betty sketched the map under hypnosis. In 1969, school teacher and amateur astronomer Marjorie Fish spent 2 years cross-referencing the sketch against known stellar catalogs. Her conclusion? The map precisely matched the Zeta Reticuli star system, a binary star 39 light-years from Earth, a system unknown to popular science when Betty drew it. Travis Walton, Snowflake, Arizona, 1975. A logging crew of 7 men watched their colleague Travis Walton get struck by a beam of light from a hovering craft and disappear. He was missing for 5 days. All 7 crew members passed polygraph tests. When Walton returned, he described being aboard a craft, examined by small beings, and eventually encountered a human-appearing figure in a helmet who escorted him before he was returned to a roadside. The case remains one of the most corroborated in UFO research, with multiple witnesses, law enforcement involvement, and documented polygraph records. The Allagash abductions, 1976, Maine. 4 art students on a canoe trip were collectively abducted from their campsite. All 4, years later, under independent hypnotic regression with different therapists, described identical procedural examinations aboard a craft. Their consistent accounts, with no collusion possible across separate sessions, constitute what researchers call a multi-witness corroborative abduction, the hardest category to dismiss. The Communion Case, Whitley Strieber, 1985. Author Whitley Strieber awoke in his upstate New York cabin to find beings in his room. His account, published in the 1987 book Communion, generated over 140,000 letters from readers who described identical experiences they had never told anyone. This is not isolated. It is a pattern. Common anatomical patterns across abduction cases globally, including reports from Brazil, the UK, Russia, and Australia, consistently describe the same procedure: immobilization, transport to a craft, physical and genetic examination, extraction of biological material, and return. The beings are consistently described as grey or white skin, approximately 4 feet tall, with oversized craniums, vestigial facial features, and large black eyes. Across cases spanning 6 decades, 5 continents, and thousands of individuals with no connection to each other, the testimony is remarkably, disturbingly uniform. The conclusion that presents itself is this: they are not just observing us, they are studying us. We are, in all likelihood, the subjects of a long-term biological survey conducted by a civilization that regards our species with the same detached scientific interest that we show when tagging and releasing migratory birds. The best stellar candidates evaluated against proximity, stellar stability, confirmed planetary habitability, and anomalous observation data are as follows. Proxima Centauri b at 4.2 light years, closest known potentially habitable exoplanet, though its red dwarf star produces intense flares that may limit surface light. Kepler 452b at 1400 light years is a near exact Earth twin in a sunlight star's habitable zone, but its distance makes transit times substantial even with advanced propulsion. Tau Ceti at 12 light years hosts multiple planets, orbits a stable G-type star similar to our Sun, and has been a prime SETI target for decades. Tabby star KIC 8462852 exhibits unexplained dimming patterns inconsistent with any natural stellar or planetary phenomenon, consistent with a megastructure partially obscuring it. But my top candidate is TRAPPIST-1 at just 39 light years. 7 confirmed Earth-sized planets, 3 firmly within the habitable zone, an ultra-cool ghost star that will burn for 12 trillion years, giving any civilization there 800 times longer than our Sun allows us. And the Betty Hill star map matched Zeta Reticuli, 39 light years distant, the same distance range. A civilization at TRAPPIST-1 with wormhole-capable propulsion would regard 39 light years as we regard a morning commute. For a species that has had 12 trillion years to develop, coming to see us is a field trip. Let us take stock of what we have established. Official US military infrared footage of unresolved craft, declassified in 2026. Ancient art across 5 continents depicting the same non-human beings. Mathematics that makes Earth's uniqueness statistically impossible. Radio signals from deep space that only cognition produces. Propulsion physics that points beyond our technology. Dimensional transit mechanics that explain the vanishing. Thousands of abduction cases with global cross-cultural uniformity, and stellar neighbors with every prerequisite for advanced life, 39 light years away. The question was never whether they are real. The question is why it took us this long to say it out loud. Until next time, stay curious. The sky is not the limit, it is the address.